And we are live here in Florence, where an execution that has been the focus of some constitutional debate is expected to go on as scheduled at 10 a.m. based on a Supreme Court decision that really impacts the entire nation. Now, we're talking about the execution of Joseph Woods, who was sentenced to death for killing his estranged girlfriend and her father at a Tucson auto shop back in 1989. Now, his attorneys argued that it's a First Amendment right to know more about the method of the execution, the qualifications of the executioner, and where the lethal drugs actually came from. The Supreme Court basically denied those arguments, allowing this execution to take place, barring any last-minute pleas or last-minute appeals here. So that execution taking place, and we understand that we may be getting some kind of a statement from the Arizona Attorney General after that execution takes place. Live here in Florence, Angie Holdsworth, ABC 15 News.
After 25 long years on death row, Joseph Rudolph Wood III was brought forth for his execution at the Florence State Prison in Arizona on a July afternoon in 2014. Instead of being a swift procedure expected to last about 10 minutes, this horrific lethal injection process turned into a nightmare that lasted nearly 2 hours. Throughout that time, Wood continuously struggled, gasped, and snorted in front of witnesses. In this video, we will go back in time to dig deep into every chilling detail of this shocking case, from the fateful night that claimed 2 innocent lives to the haunting and controversial moments in the execution chamber. Due to the extremely serious nature and potentially disturbing images, viewer discretion is advised. All descriptions are based on facts and are presented with care, not for sensationalism, but to clarify the truth. The horrific murder occurred on the afternoon of August 7, 1989, at an auto repair shop in Arizona. At that time, Joseph Rudolph Wood III, 34, stormed into the shop and caused a bloody tragedy. The first victim was Eugene Dietz, 55, the father of Wood's ex-girlfriend. As Mr. Dietz was talking on the phone, Wood did not hesitate to pull out a .38 caliber revolver and fire a shot into his chest, killing him instantly. Immediately after Wood turned to his ex-girlfriend, Deborah Dietz, 29, he overpowered her and fired 2 shots, one to her abdomen and one to her chest, ending the young woman's life. After committing this brutal act, Wood attempted to flee. However, 2 police officers arrived in time and ordered him to drop his weapon. Although Wood initially put the gun down, he suddenly picked it back up and pointed it at the officers. The officers immediately opened fire, hitting Wood multiple times. He was taken to the hospital and survived after major surgery. The crime scene was a chaotic and tragic sight, with 2 victims lying in pools of blood, leaving behind horror and pain for the witnesses and the family. Deborah Dietz, 29, was a young woman working at her family's auto repair shop. She and Joseph Rudolph Wood III had been in a 5-year romantic relationship, one described as tumultuous, with multiple breakups and incidents of domestic violence. Deborah had tried to end this toxic relationship and had even obtained a protective order against Wood to ensure her safety. The relationship between Deborah and Wood was not just about ordinary arguments. It involved police intervention on multiple occasions. Wood frequently exhibited violent and controlling behavior towards Deborah. She lived in fear for her safety many times. Her family, especially her father Eugene Dietz, always tried to protect Deborah from Wood's control. They had seen clear warning signs of his violent nature, but no one could have predicted the horrific tragedy that would unfold. Although Deborah tried to escape fate, did not give her that chance. Her efforts to find peace and safety were cruelly extinguished by the man she once loved. Joseph Rudolph Wood III, born in 1960, had a complex past. Although there are no detailed records of his background and family, Wood's violent behavior towards Deborah Dietz was not new. He had a history of domestic violence that spanned their 5-year relationship. Records show that Wood had engaged in disruptive, threatening, and physically assaultive behavior towards Deborah on many occasions. Their relationship was marked by control jealousy and aggressive acts from Wood. These signs of violence were documented and even led Deborah to seek a protective order. Wood seemed unable to accept that Deborah wanted to end the relationship. The obsession and anger built up inside him, leading to the fateful night when he decided to take her life and the life of her father, who was trying to protect her. Wood's criminal record includes aggravated assault on police officers following the murders, indicating a disregard for the law and the lives of others. These actions do not justify Wood's crime, but they somewhat illustrate a pattern of violent and uncontrolled behavior that led to the tragedy. On the afternoon of August 7, 1989, Joseph Rudolph Wood III planned his brutal act. He stormed into the Dietz family's auto repair shop where Deborah was working. Seeing Eugene Dietz on the phone, Wood waited coldly. As soon as Mr. Dietz finished his call, Wood drew his gun and shot him directly in the chest, taking the old father's life. Then Wood turned to Deborah Dietz, his former lover. He didn't say a word, only overpowering her brutally. The sound of gunfire rang out twice more, piercing Deborah's body, causing her to collapse in pain and die. The entire event happened quickly, leaving behind a bloody and horrifying scene. Wood showed no signs of remorse or regret. After murdering the two victims, he tried to escape. The incident did not end there. When two police officers approached and ordered Wood to drop his weapon, he complied. But just a moment later, Wood suddenly picked the gun back up and pointed it directly at the officers, displaying a recklessness and disregard for the lives of others. The officers were forced to open fire in self-defense, seriously wounding Wood. He was taken for emergency medical care and fortunately survived. The entire course of the crime shows the savagery, coldness, and lack of humanity of the perpetrator. After the shooting and the discovery of two bodies at the scene, the Arizona police immediately secured the area and began an investigation. With Wood being shot and wounded on site while still holding the murder weapon, the evidence collection process was relatively quick. Forensic investigators collected fingerprints, shell casings, and other evidence from the crime scene to accurately determine the sequence of events and the weapon used. Although Wood was seriously injured and hospitalized, the officers had an initial statement about his resistance. After recovering, Wood was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault against a police officer. The evidence collected, including witness testimony from the scene, forensic evidence from the victims' bodies, and the gun found with Wood, strongly supported the charges against him. Wood's arrest was tense but ultimately successful, bringing the perpetrator to justice. The trial of Joseph Rudolph Wood III took place afterward. The prosecution presented irrefutable evidence of Wood's premeditated and brutal murder of Deborah Dietz and Eugene Dietz. They emphasized Wood's coldness and cruelty in taking 2 lives without cause, as well as his resistance to law enforcement. The prosecution's strategy was to prove Wood committed first-degree murder with aggravating circumstances. Wood's defense may have tried to find mitigating factors such as psychological issues or the history of a strained relationship with the victim. However, given the clear evidence and witness testimony, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Joseph Rudolph Wood III was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault against a police officer. He was sentenced to death for each murder and received a 15-year prison term to be served concurrently for the aggravated assault charges. This verdict was a stern affirmation of justice for the Dietz family and demonstrated the severity of the crime Wood had committed. After years of unsuccessful appeals, the execution date for Joseph Rudolph Wood III was set for July 23, 2014, at the Florence State Prison in Arizona. He was to be executed by lethal injection using a combination of midazolam and hydromorphone, a drug cocktail that had previously caused controversy in the execution of Dennis McGuire in Ohio due to a prolonged and botched process. Joseph Rudolph Wood III declined to request a special meal. Therefore, as per regulations, he was offered a standard prison meal, which he did not eat. The standard meal consisted of steak, medium-well eggs, over-easy hash browns, toast milk, coffee juice butter, and jam. Before the execution began, Joseph Wood had his final words. He looked towards the family of the victims, Deborah and Eugene Dietz, and said, "I am thankful for Jesus Christ, my Savior. I am at peace, knowing my pain will end today, and I have prayed that on this day or any other you may find peace in your hearts. May God forgive you all." According to witnesses, while speaking these words, Wood at one point smiled at the victim's family, an act that angered them. The execution began at 1:52 p.m. Wood was injected with the drug mixture. According to witnesses, everything seemed normal at first. Wood closed his eyes and appeared to fall asleep. However, about 11 minutes later, Wood began to show abnormal signs. His lips trembled, followed by continuous gasping and snorting. A media witness compared Wood's breathing to a fish gulping for air. He gasped more than 600 times during the process. Wood's lawyers immediately filed an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court an hour after the execution began, asking for a stay because he has been gasping and snorting for over an hour. He is still alive. However, this appeal was denied by Justice Anthony Kennedy. Wood was pronounced dead at 3:49 p.m., nearly 2 hours after the execution began. After the execution, Mrs. Jean Brown, the sister of victim Deborah Dietz, told the Associated Press, "What I saw today with him being executed is nothing compared to what happened on August 7, 1989. The most excruciating thing is to see your father lying in a pool of blood, to see your sister lying in a pool of blood." Despite the controversy surrounding the execution process, Mrs. Brown and her family received a measure of justice for the pain they had endured for decades. The execution of Joseph Rudolph Wood III sparked a major controversy over the lethal injection method in the United States. Governor Jan Brewer ordered a review of Arizona's execution procedures, acknowledging concerns about the time Wood suffered before dying. She stated, "However, one thing is certain, inmate Wood died in a lawful manner, and by witness and medical accounts, he did not suffer." This is in complete contrast to the horrific and brutal pain he inflicted on his two victims, and the lifetime of suffering he has caused their family. Although the Arizona Department of Corrections insisted Wood was not in pain, his lawyers and human rights groups condemned the event as a violation of the Constitution's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. The case led Arizona to halt executions for 8 years until May 2022. The case of Joseph Rudolph Wood III is a painful reminder of the horrific consequences of domestic violence and the need for justice. It also raises questions about the humanity and effectiveness of capital punishment methods. For the Dietz family, Wood's death closed a painful chapter, though the pain of their loss will remain forever. Their story serves as a wake-up call to society about the importance of recognizing and stopping violence, while also protecting the vulnerable.